everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Irene Phillip, and in today's video, I'm going to be sharing some easy breakfast to dinner recipes that you could try out and enjoy on a rainy day. I believe most of you will agree with me when I say that monsoon season actually calls out for comfort food. And according to me, comfort food should actually satisfy two different things. One, it should be easy on the stomach. And two, it should actually remind me of home, my childhood and my growing up years. So the recipes that I will be sharing with you all today will be a combination of both. So without any further delays, let's go on ahead and get started. So for breakfast, I'm going to be making Kerala puttu with chole masala. Now I know that may sound odd to some of you, but trust me, my mom used to make this a lot when my brother and I were young, and we absolutely loved it, even more than the traditional black chana or what is called as kadla curry. So moving on to the recipe, I'll start by rinsing and soaking the chole. You can soak it 2 to 3 hours prior to cooking also, but I prefer soaking it overnight. Now some of the dry spices that I'll be using for the chole are 1 cinnamon stick, you can break it into 2 dried red chilies, you can choose to tear it in half, and a few black peppercorns. So in the morning, I'll go ahead and transfer the soaked and drained chole into a pressure cooker, and I'll add just about enough water. About 1 inch of water on the top is good enough. Now place the pressure cooker onto the stove, and on medium heat, add in a little bit of salt, about a half teaspoon of turmeric powder and a half teaspoon of red chili powder, and to this I'll add in all the dry spices that I showed before. Then you mix it all well and you pressure cook it for about 15 to 20 minutes. And so after about 20 minutes, you can switch off the stove and let the cooker release the pressure on its own. Now for the masala, we'll just go ahead and start off by using 2 medium-sized onions, 2 medium-sized tomatoes, about 6 pods of garlic, about 1 inch sized of ginger, and 2 green chilies. Now I'll go ahead and chop up all the onions quite small. I'll slit the green chilies in half and also mince the ginger and garlic. I'll also be chopping the tomatoes into small pieces. Once all that is done, place a kadai on the stove and heat oil in it. And once it is hot, you add in some jeera or cumin seeds. And then once it starts crackling, you're going to add in all that minced ginger and garlic. When this turns slightly brown, you add in the chopped onions and green chilies and you fry it for about 2 to 3 minutes. Add in salt and fry until the onions turn slightly brown. Now add in a little bit of turmeric powder and fry until the raw smell of the turmeric powder goes off. And then you add in the tomatoes. Stir for a little bit and close the lid for a few minutes. At this point, you can go ahead and strain the chole and also save up the stock water. Now the tomatoes should have turned slightly mushy, and to this I'm going to add some red chili powder, about a teaspoon or 2 depending on how spicy you'd like it to be. My husband and I like it very spicy, so we add about 2 teaspoons of red chili powder. So once you mix that all well, I'm going to add in some coriander powder, about 1.5 teaspoons is fine, and a bit of garam masala powder. And after mixing this all well, I'm going to add in some Everest meat masala powder. So after mixing all this well, I'm going to add about a teaspoon of tomato ketchup for a tangy flavor. And then once all the masala is cooked through, add in the strained chole. And mix the chole and masala really well and cover it and cook for about 5 to 10 minutes on low flame. Once that's done, add in the stock water bit by bit, stirring through every time and cooking until it starts boiling and reaches the desired consistency. If you want the gravy to be a little thicker, make sure to leave the vessel open on medium flame. Sprinkle in some more garam masala while it is boiling, and then finally add some curry leaves and the chole masala is ready. Cover it and keep it aside. Now moving on to the puttu. So this is the kind of puttu vessel that I have on hand. If you'd like to try this recipe, do go ahead and check the description box below. I'll go ahead and leave an Amazon link to a similar model. So to start off, in a bowl, you can add 1 1/4 cups of puttu powder, a little bit of salt, and you mix this all well, and then you can keep sprinkling water in intervals. Every time just make sure that the powder is not overwatered. It shouldn't be dry either. You can be sure that you have added enough water when you are able to squeeze the mixture and it holds its shape. Also remember that the mixture will get dry the longer it sits. So sprinkle a little more water on top and cover it and keep it aside. Meanwhile, we are going to fill a bit of water in a pressure cooker and we'll place it on the stove with the lid on, but avoid the weight. Now for assembling the puttu, we're going to start off with some grated coconut at the bottom, followed by a couple of tablespoons of puttu mixture. Now you want to make sure that you don't press it down tightly. There should be enough space for the steam to pass through it. Finally, add a layer of grated coconut again. Cover it, and once the steam starts coming from the pressure cooker, we'll place this vessel on top and cook for about 5 to 10 minutes, or until the steam starts coming through the holes on the lid. And that's it. This delicious breakfast is ready. And trust me, this tasted so good that my husband and I gulped it all down soon after the shot was taken. Pair it up with a cup of steaming black coffee and you're all set. Now moving on to lunch, I can't think of anything better than a plate of hot steaming rice with some dal and delicious fried fish. Now for the fish, we're going to start off by marinating it. And for the marinade, I'll be using about 5 cloves of garlic, a small piece of ginger, some fresh black peppercorns, and a handful of curry leaves. We'll start off by dry roasting the black pepper and curry leaves in a pan until the curry leaves turn crispy. Eventually, I dry roasted a little bit more of curry leaves, but I totally forgot to film that bit. I'm really sorry for that. Anyway, after this, I'm going to put the ginger and garlic into a mortar and pestle and crush it. Now you can use a blender instead, but I've always noticed that a mortar and pestle actually gives the food a more earthy flavor. So I'd highly recommend to just give it a try. Next, I'm going to add in the dry roasted black pepper and curry leaves and grind it all into a coarse mixture. Now in a large bowl, I'm going to add in about 1.5 teaspoons of red chili powder, 1/2 teaspoon of turmeric powder, a little bit of salt, the juice of 1 whole lemon, then add in the ground mixture, and finally a bit of coconut oil or any oil of your choice. For this, I've used coconut oil. Mix this all well and finally add in the fish pieces. Now I'm using cobia fish here, which is slightly similar in taste to a sear fish, so it's really good for frying. Now coat each piece well with the marinade, and that's it. Cover it tightly with a foil and place it in the fridge until it is ready to be fried. Now moving on to the dal, I'll first start by adding 1 cup of dal into a pressure cooker. I use a mix of tur dal and chana dal for this. Once I've rinsed the dal, I'll add some water and then place the pressure cooker on the stove on medium heat. To this, I'm going to add some salt and a bit of turmeric powder. Mix it all well and pressure cook it until 1 whistle goes off. Then you can turn off the stove and keep it aside. Now moving on to the tadka masala, we will need 1 large onion, 1 large tomato, a couple of cloves of garlic, and 2 green chilies. Next, we'll roughly chop up the garlic. We'll slice the onions and green chilies and also chop the tomatoes into large pieces. Next, we'll go ahead and heat some oil in a kadai, and to this we'll add about a teaspoon of jeera or cumin seeds. Once it starts crackling, you add in the garlic. And once the garlic turns slightly brown, you add in the onions and green chilies. Next, when the onions turn slightly translucent, you add in some salt and you can stir well until it turns brown. Next, we'll add in some turmeric powder and fry until the raw smell of turmeric powder goes off. And then we'll add in the chopped tomatoes. Once the tomatoes are slightly cooked, make sure that it doesn't turn mushy. We'll add a bit of red chili powder and some garam masala. And once the masala is completely cooked, we're going to add in the dal. Mix all this well and then cover it until it comes to a boil. Once it comes to a boil, we're going to add in about a cup of water and we're going to again allow the dal to come to a boil gradually. Now once that's done, we finally add in some more garam masala powder and then we'll add in some curry leaves. If the dal is lacking in salt, you can go ahead and add it as per your taste at this point. And with that, the dal is ready. Now all that's left is to cook some rice and fry the fish. And that's it. A simple but delicious lunch is completely ready. Now moving on to the evening snack, I'll be making some crispy banana fritters, or what is known as ethicappam in Malayalam. Believe me, this is the only snack I can never say no to, and the entire credit for this recipe goes to my mom. So for this we'll need about 1 to 2 ripe plantains. I'm using just one here because it's just me and my husband at home, and this will give us about 6 to 8 pieces. Now you also want to make sure that it is neither too firm nor too mushy. Now in a bowl, I'll add 3 tablespoons of maida, 1 non-heaped tablespoon of rice flour, about a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, about a 1/4 teaspoon of turmeric powder, less than a 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda, and finally about 1 to 1.5 tablespoons of sugar. You can add less sugar if your banana is really ripe. Now I'm going to mix this really well, and I'll also keep a glass of water ready. Now add in the water little by little, mixing well until the batter becomes a really thick consistency without any lumps. Now I'll chop the bananas in the thickness as shown on the screen. And then I'm going to transfer it all into the batter, coating each piece really well. Now in a deep kadai, pour enough oil for deep frying. Now once the oil is extremely hot, dip in the bananas really slowly and fry them on each side until it's golden brown. Transfer it onto a plate with a napkin to soak up any extra oil. And that's it. Serve it with some hot chai for a perfect evening snack on a rainy day. And finally for dinner, I'm going to be making an easy tomato soup with garlic bread. So for the soup, you will be needing 4 big tomatoes, 1 medium-sized red onion, about 5 pods of garlic, 1 to 2 green chilies, a bit of coriander leaves, 1 bay leaf, and 1 Maggi vegetable stock cube. If you don't have access to the cube, you can totally leave it out, but I believe it is available in most supermarkets today. In addition to this, we'll also be needing some salt, black pepper powder, and about a tablespoon of tomato ketchup. Now, except for the bay leaf, we will chop the tomatoes, onions, green chilies, and coriander leaves roughly and mince the garlic. Now in a pan, heat a little bit of oil, add in the minced garlic and the whole bay leaf. Saute it until slightly brown. Add in the chopped up onions with the green chilies and fry it until slightly brown, at which point we'll add in the vegetable cube. If you don't have the vegetable cube, you can add a little bit of salt at this point. Now once the onions have turned golden brown, add in the tomatoes. Mix well and cover it for a few minutes until it turns really mushy, at which point I'll be adding in the chopped coriander leaves. Saute for a few minutes and then add in black pepper powder. Mix well and then add a bit of salt for taste, and finally add in the tomato ketchup. Fry until the mixture looks well cooked, at which point we'll turn off the stove and cover it and keep it aside for cooling before we put it into the blender. Now while the mixture is cooling down, we'll start with the garlic bread. So for this, you will need about 6 to 8 pods of garlic, a bit of coriander leaves, a small stick of salted butter, and 2 slices of bread. Now we'll finally chop the coriander leaves and garlic. We'll melt the butter and we'll also cut each slice of bread into 2. Next, add in the minced garlic and coriander leaves to the melted butter and mix well. Then we'll go ahead and spread each slice of bread with a couple of teaspoons of this mixture. Place a frying pan on the stove, and once it's hot, we will place each slice of bread in it as shown on the screen. Toast each side twice until it becomes a really nice golden brown color. And that's it, garlic bread is ready. Now we'll go ahead and transfer the cool down tomato mixture into a blender and blend it until it turns into a fine paste. Please make sure that the bay leaf is removed from the mixture before you blend. Since I have a food processor, it is slightly chunky, so you can choose the texture according to how you like it. Now in the same kadai, we'll transfer the tomato puree, add a little bit of water into the blender to rinse it, and pour this water into the kadai. You can add as much water as you like. Once it starts to boil, add in some more black pepper and mix well. Allow the soup to boil and reach the desired consistency. Turn off the stove, and at this point, add a little bit of fresh cream if you like. And with that, the soup is also ready.
I really hope that this video has actually motivated you to try out any of the recipes that I've mentioned before. But more importantly, I really hope that this video has actually inspired you to try and remember and recreate any of your own favorite dishes from childhood. Before I end this video, I really wanted to go ahead and thank each and every one of you who has subscribed to my channel and for sharing and liking and commenting on my first video. Your incredible support and encouragement mean a lot to me. I also wanted to go ahead and welcome all of you who are new to my channel. If you do like the kind of videos that I post here, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and also feel free to like and comment below. So thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in my next video. Bye!